ever seen. He was so awesome that the lady almost fell over backwards. But she curtsied politely to the captain, who bowed to Our Lady, and he said, "What can I do for you?" And she said, "Oh, Captain, I'm seeking passage to a place called Buccaneer Isle. It says here latitude 76 west by 42 south. It's in the New World, and it's not far from Florida." "Well," said the captain, "I was just thinking of going to Florida next for my next adventure. So, I'd be happy to take you along. Let me conduct you to your quarters." And he led the lady up onto the ship, and there they hoisted the sail, and they started drifting down the Thames River towards the sea, and soon they were far out at sea. But that's when it happened. The worst storm in 42 years struck the Atlantic, and suddenly huge waves began hurling them from one side of the ship to the other, back and forth. Well, the wind began blowing harder, and of course, it was blowing so hard that it looked like the ship was going to crash. In fact, the mast snapped in two. "Swim!" shouted the captain. "Swim for your lives!" They swam desperately. They did the doggy paddle, the breaststroke, the side stroke, the backstroke, the front stroke. But it was no use. They started to drown. And as they sank to the bottom of the sea, they said one final prayer, and a miracle happened. A school of mermaids came swimming by. The mermaids took pity on these poor people and said, "Follow us!" And the mermaids began swimming in big, huge circles. And everyone followed them. I mean, the captain and the lady did. And they swam and swam. The water became shallower, and finally their heads popped out of the water, and they breathed a big gasp of air and collapsed to the ground. They were exhausted, but not the mermaids, of course, because they were used to being underwater. And so, the mermaids decided that it was time to head back to their secret underwater lagoon. But suddenly they stopped, and they turned around and looked at that captain and said, "Why, do you see what I see? One of those people we just saved just happened to be a shipwrecked sailor. And shipwrecked sailors are our specialty." And immediately, those mermaids began swaying their arms back and forth and singing their mysterious lover's luring song. And of course, as soon as they started singing that song, the captain went into a trance. His hands went out in front of him like he was sleepwalking. And then his eyes opened as wide as saucers. In a trance, he started walking toward the mermaids. He followed the mermaids all the way to their lagoon, leaving our poor Lady of London lying alone on the beach. Well,